Hi, boys and girls. I was listening to the weather forecast this morning, and it looks like we might be getting some snow. So that got me thinking about some things I've always wondered about. How do the crystals form? Do all the snowflakes look exactly the same? What shapes can they be? So I found a very special book. It's called The Story of Snow. And in this book, the pictures are taken by a nature photographer, Mark Cassino, and he got his information from a snow scientist, a scientist who studies snow, and his name is Dr. John Nelson. I learned a lot when I was looking at this book, so I thought I'd bring it with you to share as our first book today, and then we'll read a fun story about snow too. It'll be a good day. And then we'll wait and see if we really get some snow. Now, all snow begins with just a speck. Clouds are mostly made up of air and water, but there are also bits of other things, like tiny particles of ash and salt, even living bacteria that could float in the wind and end up in a cloud. And a snow crystal needs one of those specks. So they're very tiny because they're just little specks right there. But those little specks can come from ash or soot from a volcano or a fire. They can come from pollen from a flower. That little speck can come from salt left over where water from the ocean had evaporated. It can come from just a tiny particle of soil or even bacteria from a plant, but they're just tiny, tiny little specks. When a speck gets cold enough, water vapor sticks to it, and if you had a microscope, you could see that small little speck. And as it gets more water vapor sticking to it, it grows. The droplet freezes into a ball of ice. Now more water vapor sticks to it. Do you see how it's growing? That's all the water vapor that keeps attaching. And the branches are growing and sprouting like arms coming out from it. And then we finally have a beautiful crystal. Oh my goodness. From that little speck all the way to that beautiful snowflake. Now, a snow crystal forms as it falls. As the snow crystal gets bigger and heavier, it starts to fall to the earth. It keeps growing as it's falling through the cloud, taking on its own special shape. The shape depends how wet the cloud is, how cold the cloud is, and it starts to grow one way, but then when it passes through wetter or colder parts of the cloud, it starts to grow another way. The crystal stops growing soon after it falls from the cloud. So it's only growing while it's still inside the cloud. Now, snow crystals can be stars. That's a very common shape, and it usually has arms that are reaching out. The center point, that's where that teeny little piece was that we talked about at the beginning. And the center point with that little speck starts the crystal. And the arms look alike, but almost never are they the same. You can kind of see from the pictures the photographer took how different they are if you had a microscope. Now, snow crystals can be plates. A plate is a thin, like star crystal, but no arms. And the simplest plate is just a hexagon with its 6 sides. And sometimes it looks like the arms started to grow, but they never finished. That's a plate, but then there also is a crystal called a column. And a column is shaped like a pencil. They're not flat like the plates, and they're forming really, really high up in the clouds where it is the coldest. And they're very tiny when they fall, and they make for very slippery snow. You notice sometimes the snow is real powdery, it's hard to even make a snowball, and sometimes it's very wet and sometimes so very slippery. If it's slippery, it's a column shape. Now, the magic number of snow crystals is 6 because that's the nature of water. Water molecules, that's the smallest measurement of water, grows in groups of 6, and that leads to the crystals or the arms. See the arms coming out? And usually there's 6 of them. Snow crystals are rarely perfect because so much is happening as it's falling down to the earth that it's very rare that it would be perfect. And if water droplets would pass quickly past it, oh, it might just attach and add some more on this side. Oh, then another droplet might come over here. So some of the branches can even be longer because they've had more attachments of water droplets. A snow crystal can be a twin. Oh my goodness, a crystal that is a twin has 12 arms. Look at them all. And that happens when the crystals start from the original speck and they form right on top of each other. So there was one with 6, another one with 6, and now they're joined together. And it can be bumpy too. The crystal can have bumps because if a droplet gets near and attaches to itself, it might make little bumps on there. Many snow crystals make one snowflake. As they bump into each other, they get stuck together, and hundreds or even thousands of snow crystals can be found just in one single snowflake. So interesting, isn't it, how they're created? Now, once a snow crystal lands, it starts to wither away. Here's one landing on someone's hat or mitten, but you notice when you're outside, if it lands on your mitten, right away it just melts. You don't get to really examine it, do you? So it's very hard once they're dropping down for us to tell the difference. Are two snowflakes or two snow crystals alike? No, not usually. It might look like it, but they're not exactly alike. But then, no two leaves are alike, no two flowers or people are exactly alike either. Snow crystals are like us. Each one is different, but we have a lot in common. Now, when you're outside, boys and girls, I know you would love to catch snowflakes and really check them out, but that's not a very easy thing to do. So I have an idea for you. I just got a piece of cardboard or poster board. This is just poster board. And if it's a dark color, like a blue or a black, you could take it outside when it's snowing and hold it up to catch some snowflakes. And look, now I didn't really catch these because even if it was snowing out, they'd already be melted. But I got some stickers, so they're not even as beautiful and as different as what we just talked about. But if you bring that outside as they land, quickly look at them before they change, and you'll get to see some of the different shapes and sizes of snowflakes. Now, if we get that snow that the weather forecast is telling us, you'll be able to do that outside and do this little experiment. And wouldn't that be fun? I'm going to try it. I'm going to not do the side with my stickers. I want to see what's really going to come down on my cardboard. Now that we've learned so much about the science of snowflakes, I want to enjoy a little story that is about a snowman, and of course we need snow to build him. It's called The Most Perfect Snowman, and it's written by Chris Britt. Let's check it out and see what the most perfect snowman is all about. Drift was the loneliest snowman, and made from the first blustery snow of winter. He'd been built fast and then just forgotten. Look at, he's just standing there all by himself. No kids are around playing, no other snowmen. He only has two skinny stick arms, oh, a small mouth, and eyes made out of coal. Drift dreamed of wearing a stylish hat and a scarf, mittens, just like all the other snowmen. He even dreamed of having a long, pointy carrot nose, just like they had. If only I had that, I'd be perfect. All the other snowmen were much fancier than Drift, and they would giggle at him, and with their frosty glee, they would just look and say, "Oh, nice nose, snazzy outfit, love your style." We've learned that that is not a kind thing to do. Dressed in their finery, they would have snowy fashion parades and snowball fights and the snowmen dances that lasted all night. Drift was never invited to any of those things. They all felt that you had to be fancy like them. So he spent his day swishing and sliding through the wintry woods, often stopping in the shadows to watch all the other snowmen laugh and play. I'm feeling kind of sad for Drift, aren't you? We don't do that to our friends, right? Come on and join in. One morning, three bundled children walked by. "What a plain-looking snowman," said one little girl. "You need a hat. Here, take mine." The hat was blue and fluffy and toasty warm, and it fit perfectly. "And you can have my mittens," said the little boy. Oh, they were so snuggly. Drift raised his arms, and at the end of them he smiled at his mittens. Oh, are they making him happy? The last little girl looked at Drift and said, "Why don't you take my scarf?" It felt soft and cozy as she placed it around his neck, and she looked at him for a moment. "Hmm, you are still missing something." Then she reached into her pocket and she pulled out the most, oh my goodness, the most pretty orange carrot nose that Drift had ever seen. Now he's got all the parts that all the other snowmen have. She squashed that nose right into place and she said, "You are now the perfect snowman." And the other snowmen were all watching in amazement. Oh, they couldn't believe how lucky. All afternoon, Drift played with the children. He had never been so happy. Oh my goodness, they're playing hide and seek. They're sliding down the biggest hill that they could find. But soon dark clouds started to roll in, and his friends turned and they walked back home. Drift thanked them and he waved goodbye. And that night a terrible blizzard began to blow. Those snowflakes were going ripping right through Drift's new hat and mittens and tossed them into the air. Oh no! He went searching for his missing clothes. He looked way up into the trees. He looked down in the stream. He looked over the hills and under the bushes. Oh, he is so sad. He's lost the things that he wanted so very much. "Oh, well," Drift sighed, "at least I still have my beautiful new scarf and my nose." Then through that howling wind, Drift heard a whisper, soft voice. "I'm lost. Can you help me, please?" I wonder whose voice that is that he could hear. It's so windy and cold. It was a tiny little bunny. Can you see him over there? Oh my goodness, he's frightened and shivery cold. The bunny needed a safe place to survive the night, but there was no shelter to be found. Oh dear, that poor little bunny. I wonder what they're going to do. So Drift took off his scarf, wrapped it gently around the bunny, and said, "Now you'll stay warm." And that's when he heard a faint growl. It was the bunny's tummy. Does your tummy ever growl? Yeah, usually when it's hungry. Drift stared at the frosty night. He knew what he had to do. He reached up and removed the last remaining gift, and he gave his new friend something to eat. Well, now, between everything blowing away and giving it to the bunny, he became the most perfect snowman of all. Do you know why we would say that? Because, boys and girls, he shared everything. He didn't worry about himself anymore. He knew he had to help that little bunny. And I know when you have the chance, you help your friends too. It's not important if you have everything you ever wanted, and that will make you just like he was the most perfect snowman. It will make each of us the most perfect friend. And that's what's really important. So be a good friend, be a perfect friend, won't you? And have fun in the snow. I hope you try our experiment. See you next time, boys and girls. Bye for now.